Okay, couple of notes. One, Dante is in here playing with his ring, his ball track. So if you hear noise, it's Dante. And two, I've discovered that my video from 8, which was getting and giving, there's no sound. I don't know why there's not any sound. So I was not going to do this tomorrow because I have a very busy morning and I won't be here. So on mornings that I go get my mane tamed, I don't do these anymore. But since that video has no sound, what I will probably do is when I come home after, because I have a haircut and a chiropractor appointment, or not a chiropractor, an acupuncture appointment. When I come home from that, I will probably go ahead and redo that one so that I have it with sound instead. So, yeah, we're going to get a retread on Saturday instead of a new one. But what we are doing is living the science of mind. So let's do the housekeeping really quickly. We have a fairly long one, so I need to get through this. And so the housekeeping is just me reminding you, we are Creative Life Spiritual Center. The website is creativelife.org. The constant contact email, you get one email a week, tells you what's going on for the week and a month, and that is info@creativelife.org. The hot links are hot. It's blind CC. Nobody's going to get your email. And like I said, 1 week, unless something unusual happens. We do live in hurricane country. Last one is the social medias, simply because we don't monetize the social medias. We don't want to deal with the ads any more than you do. So what we ask you to do instead, like, subscribe, follow based on which platform, and then then engage with the post. So react to the post, comment on the post, share the post. We'd appreciate that. And if you notice that the video has no sound, let us know. Dang it. So, oh my God, they're so cute. They're laying together, playing with this ball track. It's adorable. Gio likes to sploot, so he's got his back legs out. No, I'm getting distracted. It's the problem with having them in here with me. I get distracted. Okay, so this book is, did I tell you that we are Creative Life Spiritual Center, Creative Life Spark, and I'm the running Rev Ryan on the social medias? Yes, let me do that before they distract me again. Okay, this book is a collection of essays that came from the at-home course that used to be in the back of the Science of Mind magazine. If you're interested in the at-home course, it is available. It's now 6 books, but go to the Science of Mind archives and use their Amazon link. That way some of the money will go back to the archives. It's a great way to support the archives and get some good books. Okay, so there's that. Now, I think that's it. Yeah. But answers to questions. This is the FAQ, frequently asked questions. That's what I really think this book is. Or at least that's how they created the at-home course. Okay. So let's get on with this, because we are overcoming fear and the inferiority complex. It's a weighty title. Okay. Whew. Overcoming fear and the inferiority complex. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Here is the implication that some kingdom over which we should have complete dominion has already been given. And if there is such a kingdom, and if we should have dominion over it, then we should act as kings, not as vassals, not as slaves, and not as those who cringe before an... this is one of those words that I don't actually know how to pronounce. Irrevoxable fate. Inexorable. I've seen it a lot. Don't actually know how to pronounce it. Irrevoxable. Okay, that's neither here nor there. You can tell somebody who reads a lot, they have an extensive vocabulary, and they pronounce a lot of words wrong. Because they've only ever read them, they've never heard them. Okay. If all people were made in the image and likeness of the divine being, then surely one person should not be afraid of another, and if life itself is the unity of good, then why should we be afraid of life? Experience has proved to us that some people are afraid of life. They are afraid of each other, and seldom do we find anything which even resembles a kingly attitude. Moreover, in those rather rare instances where we do find a kingly attitude, it is too often attended with arrogance. It is of the utmost importance to solve this perplexing problem, which every priest, physician, metaphysician, and psychologist meets in their daily contact with people. Under analysis, it has been found that an inferiority complex is based on the fear of life. The basic fear is an inability to proper adjust to everyday living. Okay. I did not know that. An oversensitive person is always handicapped and too often assumes an attitude of arrogance or blustering bravado to cover up their inward hurt. Generally speaking, they will not admit that such a hurt is there, and even though they train their will and study every psychological method known to with which to combat life, unless they have overcome the fundamental fears of life, they have only covered them that much deeper by their mental maneuvering. Anyone who is familiar with mental reactions knows that a person who goes blustering around saying they have no fear, asserting loudly that they are just as good as anyone, and who always demands the attention of others, is sick inwardly. They are attempting to cover up some part of themselves, although this is impossible to do. The Chinese sage said, "How can a person conceal themselves?" I wonder which Chinese sage that is. Okay. Though we crowd all of our emotions back into the unconscious, they always come up in another form. Yeah, that is definitely true. The more you try and stuff your emotions, the more likely they are to come out sideways, and then all kinds of weird things happen. Personally, I made myself sick with my emotions, like physically ill with trying to stuff my emotions. So it only works for so long. I will say that. I'm not going to say it doesn't work, but I'm going to say it only works for so long. Okay. It is impossible to bury a living spring. We can merely change its course. It is just as impossible to destroy that dynamic urge, which some call the libido, some the will to power, and others, more rightly perhaps, designate as the life force seeking expression. If we would heal the inferiority complex, we must arrive at conclusions more basic than merely teaching our student or patient to shout that they are self-sufficient. For the louder they scream, the more frightened they become, until finally their scream is a shriek, and their attitude towards life becomes hysterical. Yeah. Okay. We are told that inferiority complexes often arise from youthful frustrations and early childhood repressions, or from emotional reactions from which have shocked the finer sensibilities when they first come in contact with the hard realities of life. This may be true, and proceeding upon this theory, it becomes necessary to uncover the psychic stream of previous experiences and unconscious memories. In this process of uncovering this analysis of the soul or psyche, if the incident which started the stream of consciousness in the wrong direction, which turned back upon itself, is brought to the surface and self-seen, it is generally dissipated. Now, I'm hoping that he's going to tell you to do this with a licensed therapist, a good qualified therapist. And if he doesn't, then I'm telling you that. And there are so many available right now. When I had my eye surgery, I had a little bump, and I used one of the talk apps. And it was fantastic because the therapist asked very pointed questions, and then I responded to the questions. And in the process, I got to think things through in words in print. Worked really nicely for me. It helped me get through that bump that I needed. So, okay, to analyze every person psychologically is out of the question. Okay. And it seems just as impossible to convince everyone of the truth of the certain religious dogmas. All people do not wish to become orthodox religionists, nor do they wish to believe in some particular form of spiritual philosophy. What then are we going to do? The answer is so simple it seems surprising when we arrive at its correct conclusion. We should not overlook the fact that there are innumerable persons who have been what we call twice born. Through religious convictions, their whole lives have been instantly transformed and the entire psychic stream of previous experience reversed. Fear has been overcome through faith and through spiritual conviction, and morbid neuroses have given way before some spiritual force which we cannot completely analyze, but which no person who has investigated the facts would think of denying. All religions which have helped people have helped them because one common denominator running through each, and that is faith in something greater than the isolated self. Okay. Denominator. Equally, all psychological processes which have been beneficial in removing fear and the inferiority complex have been able to do so because of one common denominator. One common denominator running through the process, namely the giving back of the self to the self, followed by the re-education of the self and the readjustment of the self to life in confidence, in faith, and in self-assurance. Okay. Giving back the self to the self. Yeah. Very important. I do agree. This should teach us that there is one basic negation, which is the denial of the life principle, and one basic affirmation, which is the acceptance of the life principle, and that the affirmation reduces the negation to its native nothingness. All right. It would be impossible for a person to remain filled with fear if their confidence is in the indwelling spirit, is greater than their fear. For such confidence would automatically neutralize fear. This is what has taken place in the particular type of religious conversion which has caused an individual to become twice born. What their religious convictions were is of no consequence if by them they arrived at the truth and the salutary effect took place. Okay. I don't know I'm not sure where he's going with this, and I'm not sure I like where he's going with this, simply from the standpoint is that born again, because twice born again, has been weaponized, so I'm a little nervous here. All right. Although Ernest right here is saying it doesn't matter what religion it is that does it, as long as you get the benefits. And that was one of the things about Ernest is he came up with the technique of treatment, and he thought, okay, this is a really great technique. Let's teach it to everybody and let them take it back to their faith. He didn't want to start his own. He never wanted to start his own religion. He was just like, this is a really cool technique that everybody should learn. And here we are, however many years later. Okay, in recognizing this, we do not dishonor their religious conviction. Rather, we affirm it. But in such a degree as we understand the working of any principle, we need no longer approach it along the spasmodic and more or less uncertain avenue of some particular form of conversion. Okay, in other words, we don't need to convert you. Yep. Okay. The same may be said of the different schools of applied psychology. They all arrive at the practical results, and these results, generally depend upon the practitioner more than upon the method involved, since the principle underlying all of these methods must be one of faith. However, the religious faith has a certain superiority over the psychological, for it naturally follows that if a person can be brought to have faith in God, their faith in God will be greater than any faith they could have in an individual or group of individuals. This just keeps going. It is not only important, but necessary to discover what kind of belief we must have. And that is true. It's always a good idea to know what you actually believe. Because if you don't know what you believe, well, okay. In what way shall we use faith to overcome fear and to heal the inferiority complex? The answer is obvious. Faith in God, faith in each other, faith in life, faith in destiny, and above all, faith in the eternality of our own souls. The uninformed may indulge in a smile when we speak of having faith in the eternality of the soul. However, nevertheless, if they care to investigate the matter with thoroughness, they will discover that without this faith in the eternality of the soul, the other types of faith of which we speak are weakened. The reason, I think, is apparent. We could have no real faith in God or in the integrity of the universe unless such faith included a definite relationship on the part of the individual soul to the universe. Okay? Whew, deep breath. Now, we are treading deep waters here. Now, if that relationship is only a temporary one, the relationship of a candle to its flame, then it bears no weight whatsoever. Such conviction would lead most people to despair, for they would exclaim, "For what shall it profit a person if they shall gain the whole world and lose their own soul?" And that is Mark 8:36. Faith in immortality is necessary to a real healing of the inferiority complex and fear. Our faith in life must be so great that in our imagination it bridges the gulf which we call death. Because a lot of people are afraid that their lives mean absolutely nothing. That they're here, and then they die, and they leave no mark upon the world, which is why there are a whole lot of people out there making marks on the world that are detrimental, because they don't care what kind of mark they make as long as they make a mark. Yeah, really. Okay. A careful analysis of the great characters of history who have had this faith would soon prove to us that with its advent, the sense of inferiority and fear has lessened. The chapters of religious history are filled with the accounts of those who have passed from weakness into strength, from timidity into courage, as a result of the transforming power of faith. Whether or not we choose to call this a psychological reaction makes no difference, since all mental reactions are psychological. If, on the other hand, we wish to call such experiences spiritual, we are equally right. The spiritual experience has come to the mind, has convinced the intellect, and has penetrated the emotions. When such experiences have sunk deeply enough, they have become subjective, which means they have become permanent. That's kind of an important, that we work to get things into the subjective mind, because once they're in the subjective mind, it's really hard to root them out. The thing we wish to do then is to find a faith greater than our fears, whether they are the fears of people, of conditions, of life, or of death. Such fears are born out of complete conviction of the eternal destiny of one's own soul and of all other souls. We cannot fail to realize that fear and the inferiority complex are always a turning of thought back upon turning of thought back upon it, the self. This is why it has so often been called a form of selfishness. But it is more than this. It is self-centeredness rather than selfishness in the ordinary sense of the term. We all know many unselfish persons who have made a complete sacrifice of themselves to good causes, but who have felt martyred in so doing. Persons who have devoted their entire lives to others, but who have been very conscious of doing so. This self-centeredness often accompanies the inferiority complex, and it too must be healed. It is healed by realizing that there is but one final self in which all selves converge. Okay? The infinite desires neither martyrs nor those who sacrifice anything of their true nature. The law of the infinite is towards self-expression, and the self-expression in the individual means the expression of the individual, the evolution of the individual, and the eternal ongoingness. Hence, the self-centered person must be given a goal or an ideal greater than their individualized self. They must surrender the smaller self to the greater self. Yeah, well. Not even gonna go there, because I'm just thinking about politics. This is the sacrifice which they are called to make. They must die to their concept of the limited self and become resurrected to the consciousness of that self, which is one with all persons, places, and things, one with all ages, one with God. They must give up their fears and their hurts, and after they have learned to look upon all other persons as they look upon themselves, then they will know that the true self cannot be hurt, nor does it wish to hurt. Their soul will have entered in that mental atmosphere where hurt is no longer possible. In such a degree as all vindictiveness, hate, and animosity disappear, they will find themselves merging with the spiritual atmosphere of others. They learn to respect and admire others and expect that others will respect and admire them. They overcome their fear of life by understanding life, not by fighting it. They overcome their fear of people by coming to understand rather than shun them. This type of understanding is beyond the ordinary concept of tolerance. They do not learn to tolerate people, they learn to understand them. There is a vast difference. They see through the weakness and frailty and inconsistency of human life, even its fears and morbidities. They no longer cringe. With calm placidity, they face their inevitable exit from this world, knowing that as glorious as this life has been, they are certain to go on to better. If we would eliminate fear and morbidity, this is what we must realize. Human experience has never found a better way. Indeed, it is the only way which is certain to produce the desired results. In actual experience, this work is done somewhat after this manner, with the understanding that if you are treating yourself, you say, I am thus and so, and if you are treating someone else, you say, he is or she is thus and so, they are. This is the method of procedure for all treatment. Okay, so he's about to do a treatment. So I'm going to do the same thing I did yesterday, which is, oh my goodness, I am out of time. I'm just going to wrap this up really quickly. I'm just going to remind you that Reverend David will be on around 5 p.m. I'll be back with you. I will be on tomorrow, but not at 9 a.m. I'm taking a break. But I'm going to redo that other one that has no sound. So I'll do it sometime. But I will be back around 8:45 on Sunday. So there's that. Okay. I want you to have a great day. Drink plenty of water. Know that you are loved. Okay? Now I'm going to read this treatment and I'm going to end it on the treatment. Okay? I know that I am one with life. I now understand that life itself is perfect, complete, that there is a spiritual presence and a divine unity running through everything. I understand how it is that this divine unity personifies itself through all people. I see clearly how it is that this divine unity operates every form and animates every event. I am conscious of this divine presence at the very center of my own soul. It is the reality of myself. This reality is strong, positive, certain, confident, and whole. I see that the reality within me is the same as the reality in all people whom I shall ever meet, and that the reality within them responds to the reality within me. Therefore, in our human greeting, there is a divine unity. All my human relationships are established in this divine unity. All of my relationships flow from it. There is no fear, no sense of inferiority. I am conscious of my ability to meet every situation. I am conscious of my ability to meet every person with perfect frankness, perfect openness, and in complete understanding. Moreover, I know that every person wishes me well. Every situation which I experience tends to promote my well-being, to increase my happiness and self-expression, and all the good that there is my good today. My faith in good is complete, my union with life is perfect, and I shall always meet appreciation, helpfulness, encouragement, and certainty. This is the law manifesting itself in my experience today, tomorrow, and always.